Hello, boys and girls. I hope you're having a great week. For some of us, this is finally the last week of school that we've been doing at home. And for others of you, you're already done, so congratulations. I know that it's been kind of a rough road for some of us, and maybe others of us have really enjoyed it. So I hope that this is a great kickoff for your summer this week, and that you're just enjoying some outside playtime, some reading, whatever that you like to do. This coming Sunday, we're going to be looking at the story of Joseph, which is one of my favorite stories, especially in the Old Testament, but kind of in the whole Bible. I even have a child named Joseph, and part of that is after Joseph's story in Genesis. What I love about Joseph is that he goes through a lot of hard stuff, and he still shows faith in God every single time. It's amazing. But it's a rough road, okay? If you want to revisit the story, it's in Genesis. It starts in chapter 37 of Genesis, and I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to kind of summarize what we're going to be looking at this week on Sunday. We're going to talk about when he's a young man is where our story starts, and his father loves him so much. His father kind of favors him more than any of his other sons, which of course is going to cause some problems. And you probably remember Joseph and his coat of many colors. His father gave him, says, a richly ornamented robe, and his brothers saw that and they were very jealous. Also, Joseph's having dreams, and in these weird dreams, he likes to tell his brothers and his father about his dreams, and the dreams kind of symbolize that someday the brothers and the father are going to bow down to Joseph, the youngest son at this time. And so they're like, excuse me, what? Are you saying that we're going to worship, or we're going to bow down to you? And he's like, I guess, I don't know. And so when his dad sends him one day out to his brothers in the field, if you remember, they beat him up and they're going to kill him, but then they say, no, we'll throw him in this pit. So they throw him in a pit. He can't get out. And then some people come by from Egypt and they think, oh, we'll just sell him and we'll actually even make some money off of him. So it's really bad, right? So imagine being Joseph. His brothers hate him, right? On the plus side, his father really loves him, but his brothers hate him. They hate him so much, they're so jealous of him, that they beat him up and throw him in a pit. Then instead of killing him, which I guess is a plus side, they sell him as a slave to a faraway land in Egypt. Pretty bad. So he ends up as a slave at Potiphar's house, which skips over to chapter 39 at that point, if you want to kind of look at that part of the story. However, it says that the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered him. He gave him success in everything, so much so that Potiphar saw that and put him in charge of everything. But then it goes bad again because Potiphar's wife tells lies about Joseph and gets him thrown in prison. And it's just up and down, up and down. But guess what? Here's the difference. Remember how Abraham and Sarah were kind of up and down? Joseph's life circumstances, things that happened to him, are up and down, right? Like, oh, he's thrown in a pit, beat up by his brothers, and sold as a slave. That's kind of rock bottom. But when he's sold as a slave, everything he does works out and is great because the Lord's blessing him. So he's put in charge of everything. But then Potiphar's wife tells lies about him, and Potiphar has him thrown in jail. And we're back to rock bottom. But the jail guy sees that everything Joseph does is successful, so he puts Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. I mean, if you're going to be in jail, that's probably the best possible scenario, right? Okay, so Joseph was having, I guess, what could have been thought of as a bad life. But the Lord was with him and was making everything Joseph did successful. Okay, so we're going to read a story today about somebody who's having a really bad day. You might have seen this one before. It's an old favorite, right? So, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Judith Viorst. So, just for fun, let's read about it and see. Okay. Illustrated by Ray Cruz. Here's our friend Alexander. Coincidentally, we almost named Joseph Alexander. That's his middle name. I never really thought about the connection before between Joseph and Alexander, but okay. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard, and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink while the water was running, and I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Have you ever had a day like that? It starts off rough in the morning. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box, and Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. This feels unfair when good things happen to your siblings, right? Your brothers or your sisters or even your friends. And, you know, we can think about that as far as how Joseph's siblings, his brothers, felt toward him. Like he was the lucky one. He got all the cool stuff from the father, and they were really jealous of that. Just like Alexander was jealous of his brothers and what they found. Let's keep going with this day. In the carpool, Mrs. Gibson let Becky have the seat by the window. Audrey and Elliot got seats by the window too. I said I was being scrunched. I said I was being smushed. I said if I don't get a seat by the window, I am going to be car sick. No one even answered. See him there. I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At school, Mrs. Dickens liked Paul's picture of the sailboat better than my picture of the invisible castle. And you can see there's nothing on his page. At singing time, she said I sang too loud. At counting time, she said I left out 16. Who needs 16? I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I could tell because Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. He said that Philip Parker was his best friend, and that Albert Moyo was his next best friend, and that I was only his third best friend. I hope you sit on a tack, I said to Paul. I hope the next time you get a double-decker strawberry ice cream cone, the ice cream part falls off the cone part and lands in Australia. Not very nice, right? There were 2 cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, and Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mother gave him a piece of jelly roll that had little coconut sprinkles on the top. Guess whose mother forgot to put in dessert? It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. There's that jealousy again because his friends are getting things he doesn't get. That's what it was, because after school, my mom took us all to the dentist, and Dr. Fields found a cavity just in me. Come back next week and I'll fix it, said Dr. Fields. Next week, I said, I'm going to Australia. Sometimes we just kind of want to get away from it, don't we? On the way downstairs, the elevator door closed on my foot, and while we were waiting for my mom to go get the car, Anthony made me fall where it was muddy. And when I started crying because of the mud, Nick said I was a crybaby. Sometimes brothers can be that way, can't they? And while I was punching Nick for saying crybaby, my mom came back with the car and scolded me for being muddy and fighting. He should have not done that, right? I am having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, I told everybody. No one even answered. So then we went to the shoe store to buy some sneakers. Anthony chose white ones with blue stripes. Nick chose red ones with white stripes. I chose blue ones with red stripes, but then the shoe man said, we're all sold out. They made me buy plain old white ones, but they can't make me wear them. Just not going his way. When we picked up my dad at his office, he said I couldn't play with his copying machine, but I forgot. He also said to watch out for the books on his desk, and I was careful as I could be except for my elbow. He also said don't fool around with his phone, but I think I called Australia. My dad says, please don't pick him up anymore. It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. There's his mom's giving him a look, right? He's done some of the things that he shouldn't have done. They're having some dinner. There were lima beans for dinner, and I hate limas. There was kissing on TV, and I hate kissing. Just can't get a break today, Katie. My bath was too hot. I got soap in my eyes. My marble went down the drain, and I had to wear my railroad train pajamas. I hate my railroad train pajamas. When I went to bed, Nick took back the pillow he said I could keep, and the Mickey Mouse nightlight burned out, and I bit my tongue. The cat wants to sleep with Anthony, not with me. It has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. My mom says some days are like that. There's a picture of the brothers in their bunk beds and the cat's up there. Some days are like that, right? Guess what? Even in Australia. And maybe when he wakes up tomorrow, it will be a better day for Alexander. Joseph was having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad string of things that happened to him, right? But God was with him, and that's what made all the difference. God was with him. God was letting other people see that there was something different about Joseph because he trusted in God. Okay, so I want to encourage you this week, even if you're having a hard day where nothing's going your way, to pray to God, thank Him for being with you, and ask Him to help your day be better. Bye, everyone.